This is what happens when you give a woman testosterone. This for 5 years. This is what happens, essentially.
It's hard to think about how great my life was before I did anything to myself, you know.
I was never uncomfortable with my gender.
You get prolapse, you get constant infection, you get necrosis.
The stitches started coming apart.
It's always possible.
Will I lose any sort of sensation there?
There is always a chance.
Yeah, what about all the happy trans people, right? And it's like, do any of them say, well, what about the unhappy trans people?
Hi guys, it's Misha and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about detransitioners and, listening to some of their stories. And I do think that this is a very important thing to do because what mainstream media tends to do is only, glorify transitioning and talk about how if you start taking testosterone or estrogen, all will be well. But there are these stories from detransitioners who were never even transgender and were pushed into transitioning medically by, their doctors and therapists. Big Pharma, of course, has a lot of money to make from giving out these hormones, puberty blockers. I want to start off by showing this video of a detransitioner that is really popular right now. But before we get into it, please make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss any of my videos.
I'm tired of watching my hair thin out, and it's less distressing if I shave it. So when I talk about being too far gone, this is how deep my voice is. This is what I mean by hair loss. And it just keeps getting worse. It keeps thinning. It keeps receding backwards.
We're told that all of these changes are reversible. Big Pharma obviously doesn't care.
This is what happens when you give a woman testosterone. This for 5 years. This is what happens, essentially. So, that's it. Stay safe.
And you could look at the comments and the duets to this video or the people responding to this video.
Funniest part about that guy who's detransitioning on Twitter, did you not look at the men in your family and be like, ew, they're kind of ugly. I'm going to look like that. That never crossed your mind? You really thought that you were going to come out looking like a model?
And it's like, where did all that support go? Because they're only going to support you and they're only going to give you, oh, it's okay, you're part of this community, we're going to love you and support you no matter what, up until you question anything about the transition process. Like, oh, should kids really have this option to transition? Question it. You're out of the cult. They're no longer your family and so supportive. Another common thing that we hear is, oh, but it worked for me. It worked for my friend. And that's great. But I still don't believe that children should have this option to make this choice. We shouldn't be censoring these detransitioners and them talking about what could go wrong so that grown-ups can see both sides and make an informed decision whether or not to transition.
It's almost this expectation, but yeah, what about all the happy trans people, right? And it's like, do any of them say, well, what about the unhappy trans people?
Right, and if you need to see some happy trans people, you can go on Disney Channel now. You can watch a White House press conference. You can turn on CNN. Pretty sure we have enough representation of everything trans is magical and this is an amazing experience and everything's perfect.
Kids can't even get tattoos until they're 18 in a lot of states in America. So you can't get a tattoo, but you can get a sex change. Logic? Hello? We'll often hear, oh, but it's not good to talk about detransitioning because transitioning really does save people's lives. That is true, but it can also ruin people's lives, and that's what we're seeing. More and more people are coming out and talking about their experience and what went wrong. And these are just the people that are brave enough to go on YouTube and go on these platforms and talk about their experience. There are so many people, I bet, who are too afraid to get that backlash from their so-called community of, supporters. It would be crazy to just, all of a sudden everyone kind of abandons you and says, oh, you're a traitor. You just lose a family, a community. So there are many people out there, I'm sure, who are too afraid to come out and say, hey, I should not have been given this option to permanently change my body this way. We even have teachers now who are secretly transitioning children and not telling their parents. So slowly but surely, your name, we're going to use a different name for you, different pronouns, or if you're following the logic that a person's gender can change every single day, they're gender fluid, or only that person really knows what their gender is. None of us can tell what this person's gender is. Then how can doctors, what's the protocol then for doctors to say, yeah, you can transition medically? I mean, there's no way for doctors to even tell if someone is really transgender if you're following this logic. How will they differentiate between someone who's actually transgender and has gender dysphoria and someone who is just confused or may have another mental health issue? Because that's a very common theme that you're going to find, is that these detransitioners had a different problem going on, right? Like something else was going on psychologically, and they were misdiagnosed. Here's another detransitioner. She actually says that she doesn't regret her transition, which isn't the case with most detransitioners. And I'm happy that she doesn't regret it, but that's not representative of the majority of detransitioners, once again, who have irreversible damage done to their bodies. Keep that in mind, and let's take a look.
I started dating someone when I was 17 who then came out to me as trans. When they would describe some of their feelings or things that they went through, some of those things resonated with me. Not everything, but some things. And it made me kind of question that. Those things is like, I was a big tomboy when I was younger, and liked playing with the boys or playing, different sports or wearing boys' clothes.
I think one of the main causes in the rise of detransitioners and people that never really were trans but were pushed into this direction of medically transitioning is the change in definition of being transgender, right? And what once was you have gender dysphoria, a condition where you really feel that your brain isn't matching your body, you were born in the wrong body, it's causing you a lot of distress, and medically transitioning as an adult would be the best option for you after years of therapy. Typically, that's what these actual transgender people would do. Now, you don't even need gender dysphoria to be transgender. We see this with non-binary people talking about it, and we hear this all the time, right? You don't even need that. It's just, if you feel trans, you're trans, that's all that it really takes, is you identifying as transgender. So, obviously, if you have all these people being taught this and then they actually go and they want to be part of this community and then they do the surgery, take the hormones, and then they go, well, now I actually do have gender dysphoria because I wasn't meant to be in this body.
Still taking hormones, my body just continued to get more and more masculine. And that was a fuller beard. That was more body hair. That was my voice getting even more deeper. And I started to feel a little uncomfortable. I didn't understand why I felt uncomfortable.
Another thing you will hear a lot is these people say, oh, I was a tomboy growing up, if it's a girl. Or I was really girly, I like to play with Barbies if it was a boy. And that's something else I want to talk about. I'm not a fan of having these very strict gender norms and, stereotypes and gender roles, blah, blah, blah. Because this is one of the reasons why. These people get confused, especially as children, if they're being told, there is something wrong with you if you want to play with girls' toys if you're a boy, or girl or boys' toys if you're a girl. And then they grow up and they think, they find this community online that's telling them, oh yeah, that means that's a good sign right there that you are transgender. So why can't we just accept that there are feminine men and masculine women and people like to dress in different ways, and that's okay? I'm not saying, again, it's bad to show boys what it's like to like boy things and to be masculine. Okay, go ahead, do that. I'm just saying it's not like good to go in extreme ways, right? Like, don't you dare pick up that Barbie. You're a freak if you do. Like, it's okay. It's okay. That's just my opinion. If you like pink and you're a boy, the world's not going to explode. And it doesn't make you transgender. It doesn't mean anything about it. Maybe you just like Barbies. It's a possibility, right? Like, that's why I don't think it's good to be extreme in either direction. Because you need balance in life, okay? And just like I think that it's stupid to say, oh, you're teaching your son toxic masculinity if you're telling him that, boys need to be strong or something like that. No, that's silly as well. Balance.
23 years old. I was about 15. I started using Tumblr. I had an eating disorder since I was pretty young. There's a lot of messages that said, if you feel bad about your body, that means you're trans. I was just going through this period of like, I don't like how I'm treated as a cis person. I don't want to be cis because cis means you're uncool and you're privileged and you're an oppressor and you're bad, and I don't want to be that. Especially from a young age, be lied to by adults at school and by medical professionals and told that your body is wrong, you need to change it, you need to get hormones, you need to get surgeries. That's devastating for a young person.
It is very manipulative, and teenagers need time to figure out their identity. Very few teenagers know, like, truly who they are. And at such a vulnerable time, that's when when these trans activists are telling people, oh, that's a sign that you're transgender. So they shouldn't be given this option to make decisions like surgery, you know, that are going to permanently change their body. And I have this opinion with cosmetic surgery as well. It's not just about transgenderism. And unfortunately for a lot of these detransitioners, they were just more feminine men or more masculine women. If you actually found like a good community, they should be supporting you for who you are, not telling you that you should change yourself. And that's why we need these unbiased psychiatrists who can say, hey, listen, you don't like stereotypically masculine or feminine things? That's okay. Doesn't make you transgender. But they are so scared of being called transphobic that now they have to say, yeah, transition, that's fine. And this is happening in general with being overprescribed, you know, medications for mental health issues. It's so weird to me that we're treating children as if they were adults and adults as if they're children. Because, you know, children are the ones who understand everything about gender and about life and all of the risks associated with transitioning, so they should have the ability to make the choice to transition. But adults, they're just bigoted and their brains are too small, and we should throw them into prison if they don't affirm the child's identity. And also we see these TikTokers who are, you know, like teachers going on TikTok and crying when they are misgendered by children.
One driver that doesn't listen just constantly misgenders me. I really love my job. I love working with these kids. I had to get misgendered and ignored all the time by her. She doesn't listen. I correct her all the time and she doesn't listen.
There's obviously something going on mentally. Blaire White, she had an amazing interview, and she talked about how a lot of this is internalized misogyny or internalized homophobia. A lot of these young girls who are transitioning, they would rather be a man because they are told obviously there's so much sexism in the world, or a lot of them are just gay and they have internalized homophobia and think it's better to transition to a man and be with a woman than to just be a lesbian.
That it's homophobic, that people are transitioning their children because they'd rather have a son than a gay daughter.
You look at other countries, particularly in the Middle East.
That's right.
Where basically to cure being gay, you transition because they figure if you're going to be having sex with men, then you might as well just be a woman. That's what they do to cure gay people in these Middle Eastern countries. And when we see that, we say, oh, that's homophobia.
Yep.
That's disgusting. Yep. When it happens here from some like white liberal mother.
Right on, my friend.
There was also Jazz Jennings. She had her own show. Where her parents, you got the sense that they were exploiting her for money, pretty much.
Just take a picture too. Poor thing, you could be a star for all the photos we've taken. God, I'm so sorry. I did not say that.
We have to just keep joking around here. Our stitches started coming apart. How likely do you think that's going to happen again?
It's always possible.
Yesterday, her wounds were definitely separating and she formed like a blister.
Will I lose any sort of sensation there, nerve endings? I don't know.
There is always a chance.
And she went through all of these surgeries. There's a lot of complications. Another thing we hear a lot, that they were really uncomfortable in their body during puberty. But this happens to a lot of people, not just transgender people. Everyone is uncomfortable in their body during puberty. It's a confusing time. It's scary. A lot of people feel that. A lot of children, they think they're going to be like a dinosaur when they grow up. But you're giving them the option to choose their gender and to go and get surgery. I mean, that's crazy. Also, it's almost as if we're telling children that they will just become regular men or regular women if they transition. What it really is, you know, lifelong use of testosterone injections or estrogen, which could cause a lot of health issues. Children cannot consent to this. They don't understand fully what's going on. They're not magically turning back the clock and being born as a man or as a woman. And that's all for today's video, guys. I would love to hear your thoughts on this, so please make sure to comment them below. Remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.